Let's say that we have an equipment note. We are going to pay premium. We're going to borrow against the premium and we're going to pay down the combine because the combine's at 7%. The life insurance company is at 5%. Next year, we're going to pay premium. We're going to borrow against cash value. We're going to pay down the combine note. We didn't get rid of the note because all we did was move it to 5%. We just moved it over to the policy. But we have the ability to pay that back whenever we want, however we want. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, let's talk today about starting the infinite banking concept in bad times. So I am going to qualify this as bad times just because of the fact that commodity prices are down. Everybody's calling me and telling me how bad wheat prices are and how bad corn prices are. And I see them. I get it. I 100% understand. And so most of us will say, well, we can't start right now because commodity prices are absolutely terrible. Well, let's talk about it. If we read Becoming Your Own Banker, if you've read Becoming Your Own Banker, you know that Nelson understood and this whole concept was started when he got caught with $500,000 of debt that went to 23% interest overnight. That little book back there. Oh, I've got it on my desk. I was reading it, so I forgot. This book right here. If you look at it and you read it, don't just look at it. Never mind that comment. Don't just look at it. It's a pretty book, but you need to read it. And if you are watching me on video, you need to see, here's the introduction. I have it highlighted. I have it underlined in multiple colors because we need to understand the concept. This isn't about buying a life insurance policy and then all this magic happens, right? If we understand what Nelson is telling us, it is, hey, I got caught with $500,000 of debt and I didn't know how I was going to get out of that. How did he get out of it is he understood he can run money through the policy and borrow it at a lower interest rate than what he was borrowing from the bank. And so people will say, well, I don't need life insurance when interest rates are low. And then when interest rates are higher and commodity prices are down, y'all are telling me you can't do anything then either. And so you have to prepare for the bad times in the good times. Well, now we're in the bad times and you're just hearing about this book possibly. And you're saying, well, I can't afford this now. Nelson did. Nelson talks about Parkinson's law. And so a luxury once enjoyed becomes a necessity. Guess what Nelson did? He quit buying all the luxuries and he used money to pay premium and then he borrowed against that. And guess what? He started to pay that back when he had the snakes and dragons paid off. So we have to look at my book is great. It's fantastic as an introduction to Nelson's book. If we are looking today and saying, oh my gosh, commodity prices are terrible, we can't do this. Well, there's 4 reasons really why you should be able to still do this and why you almost need to do it in a bad time. Number 1, we pay premium. We can turn around and borrow against the majority of that right away. And then we can pay down a debt. We can pay off a debt. It's all the strategy of how we use it is really going to depend on what we have for debt, how we're utilizing cash. Those are the things that I help you with because I can't just be like, hey, this is how you do it when I don't know how you're using cash. I don't know how you're spending. I wish I could just tell you all of that information here. I'm not trying to gatekeep that. It's just that I can have 2 people side by side and one of them is going to utilize money differently than the other one, right? And so that all has to come into consideration. Number 1, if you pay your premium, you turn around, borrow against it, and use it to pre-buy. Use it to pay down debt. Use it to buy a new piece of equipment. Whatever that looks like. But here's what people think. Well, I can't do this unless I have the extra money. Nelson didn't have extra money when he started this. He was in a position where he didn't have anything extra. He just needed to get debt moved from 23% to 5 to 8 is what he was paying. Okay, so number one, if we start in the bad times, we have access to that money right away. Number two, you have the freedom to pay that policy loan back whenever you want. So think about it. Nelson paid his premium. He did not, most likely, and I'm going to say I'm 99% sure, he did not pay his policy loans back until the bank was paid off. He was probably paying interest only on them. If he had extra, maybe he was paying that. But his whole goal was to get rid of the banking system and have everything housed in his policy. Most of us are like, oh my gosh, we have to pay this loan back and we have to pay the bank at the same time. In some of these cases, I don't want you paying the loan back to your policy until we get rid of the bank. Pay interest only to the life insurance company while we get rid of the bank for that loan. And then we're going to funnel, once we're done with the bank, we're going to funnel all of those payments back to the life insurance policy. Let's say that we have an equipment note. We are going to pay premium. We're going to borrow against the premium and we're going to pay down the combine because the combine's at 7%, the life insurance company is at 5%. Next year, we're going to pay premium. We're going to borrow against cash value. We're going to pay down the combine note. We didn't get rid of the note because all we did was move it to 5%. If you're going to do a strategy like that, you need to pay interest only to the life insurance company at 5%, but you can keep making those payments to the bank. We didn't get rid of the bank note. We just moved it over to the policy. But we have the ability to pay that back whenever we want, however we want. Can this get you into trouble? 100%. You have to be an honest banker to make sure that you are paying this all down correctly. But that is what Nelson did. He paid his premium, he borrowed against it, he paid down the snakes and dragons until the snakes and dragons were taken care of, and then he started to pay back his policies. It took him 13 years to get rid of the bank on the corner, and he moved it all over into his life insurance policies in a time where interest rates are 23%, but it gives you flexibility. So 1, you have access to money right away. 2, you have flexibility to pay that premium back whenever you want. 3, if you start a policy now, even when everything is low, your commodity prices are low, wouldn't this be worst case scenario? Wouldn't this be, hey, I know I can pay this premium today, but ideally commodity prices are going to come up. And so I know I'll always be able to make this premium. I may have to start another policy later when things are good. We all want to wait until things are good. And then what happens is you set your premium based on the absolute best. And then the bad happens and you're like, well, now I can't pay my premium. Right? And so starting when things are bad is almost better because you know you can still do it. You're going to beat Parkinson's law and you're going to get over everything you don't need in order to make the policy work, in order to start creating your own banking system. And number 4, you have death benefit. Right now, most people are sitting without death benefit. It is absolutely crazy to me how many people on a normal basis just do not have death benefit. How are we out there with hundreds and millions of dollars of debt and no death benefit? Why are you not at least protecting your family? So not only are we creating our own bank, but we're also making sure that everybody's taken care of if something should happen to us. We have access to the money right away. We have the ability to pay that back whenever we want. We have that flexibility. We have to start thinking about the fact that just because it is low commodity prices, that doesn't mean that we cannot start this process. It actually is much different. It means we should be starting the process now because it's worst case scenario. If you can get your finances together when commodity prices are low, imagine how great your finances are going to be when they're high. And so when commodity prices were high, guess what? Everybody was saying, well, I don't need this. I'm already farming without the bank. Yeah, okay. Where are you at now? You're back at the bank. Because when commodity prices were high, you also should have been starting your bank so that when they were low, you were prepared. Right? I've talked about that before on here. So when they're bad, why aren't we preparing to have a policy so when they're good, we have a place to warehouse this money? Nelson said, the only business in the world that doesn't stop is the banking business. Money has to flow, and it does not matter what the interest rates are. Interest rates are up, interest rates are down. Commodities are up, commodities are down. It frankly doesn't matter, right? Money is constantly moving. It does not stop. And so if you are in a position right now where you don't know your numbers and you are thinking there is absolutely no way I can do this, I am going to challenge you. Now, there are some people that can't do this, but I'm going to challenge you to change your thought process because many people are not understanding that I can pay the premium and then I can turn around 10 days later and I can borrow that money and I can use it to pay down a bank debt. And I've provided for my family and I've given myself some liquidity or I've given myself some freedom to pay that back whenever I can. It is super simple when you quit making it so hard. And we want to make this so hard. We want to look at our premium as an expense. And it is not an expense. It is a tool that we get to run our money through so that we have the uninterrupted compound interest. If we're going to wait and wait and wait and wait, guess what? We have stopped the uninterrupted compounding on that money. And we've stopped it and we've stopped it and we've stopped it. And finally, we're like, oh, good. It's a good year and I have a surplus of money. So now I will start. Well, then when commodity prices drop again, you say, well, now I can't pay my premium because I don't have the surplus of money. Nope. You don't understand the concept and the thought process of getting that money through the policy. Friends, it's not hard, but we make it hard. And you are not alone. If you are saying, hey, how come I don't know how people are doing that? I just don't understand. I don't get that. Why would I put the money in the policy first? We're not understanding the majority of what the concept is. And I encourage you to keep listening to the podcast, read the book again, grab Nelson's book. So many people want to go to the numbers in my book and they want to go to the numbers in Nelson's book. I frankly don't look at the numbers in Nelson's book. I don't look at them. Equipment financing section, don't look at it. Don't care about it. It's great. It shows you what the policy is doing. My policy or my numbers in my book, same thing. It's great. It shows you what the policy is doing. Y'all get hooked on that and you're like, oh, this is fantastic. But you don't understand what it's like to be the bank. You want to own the bank. You want to be the banker. You want to beat Parkinson's law. You want to understand where they house wealth. You don't get that thought process if you don't read this book. And read it and reread it. And it's in audio. You can go to infinitebanking.org and you can get Becoming Your Own Banker in audio. Or I'm sorry, you can go to, I do this all the time. You can go to Audible and you can get Becoming Your Own Banker. It is so important to understand the thought process about utilizing that money. It is about uninterrupted compound interest. But the fact that we have control The fact that we don't have to answer to anybody if we need to pay it back over a longer period of time gives us the freedom in the bad years. I have clients that do not pay their loans every year because they may have had a bad year, so they're going to pay interest only. But it's going to get them through to the next year, so now all of a sudden we can start paying loans back again. The bank doesn't allow us that freedom. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do only for a couple of years, but we might have 4 or 5 years of a downturn. We just never know what's going to happen with commodity prices, right? So make sure that you are thinking about this correctly and not waiting until everything just gets super fantastic. And then all of a sudden we've got money and we can start this. This is not about excess money. This is about running money through a system and creating your own banking system. We have to do it correctly. And that, again, is what I am here to help you with. So it's not a sales technique to say, hey, just call me. No, even though everybody's operations do the same thing, what you're thinking about money, how you're spending money. When I sit down and talk to somebody one-on-one, I know how that person is handling money. And I can see, is this going to be something that they can handle? Or is this going to be something that's not going to be good for them? And I tell people a lot, you are not ready to do this. You need to do X, Y, and Z. Because I'm not going to sell you a life insurance policy that you can't pay premium on. No, thank you. Not good for the company, not good for me. So I want to make sure that you understand, but I can't do that if I don't understand how you handle money, expenses, estate planning, what's coming up in the future. We have an 1.5-hour meeting for a reason, okay? Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's hard. And I'm calling you out on your thought process. So anyway, commodity prices are down does not mean that you cannot start this. Just means that you need to be Parkinson's law and you need to be looking at what you're doing and just changing thought process a little bit. Okay, let me know if you have comments, questions, concerns. You guys know the drill. Grab the book. Grab Nelson's book if you've not gotten it. Why? I ask you guys this every week and I'm serious about it. Why haven't you gotten this book? You can go to farmingwithoutthebank.com. We'll send you the book, or you can go to Audible and get the audio. Okay? Let me know if you have questions. I'm here to help. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to the Farming Without the Bank podcast. We hope today's episode has inspired you to take control of your finances in new ways. Don't forget to check out our website, farmingwithoutthebank.com, and engage with us on our Facebook page, Farming Without the Bank. Join us next week as we smash more financial myths and empower you to accomplish your financial goals.